What is the best SD card for your camera? If that is the question you're asking, then this video is for you. It may seem daunting now, but by the end of this video, you'll be equipped with all the knowledge you need to confidently choose the perfect SD card for your setup. Hey, it's Chris from By Christian J Films and Photography here, continuing with videos in the Camera Basics series. Today we're answering the question, what is the best SD card for your camera? We'll start off in the shallow end, work our way up to the deep end, then back again. So with that said, let's start with an easy one. Storage capacity is typically measured in gigabytes or terabytes and will be the number followed by the letters GB or TB. In short, the higher the number, the more storage you have, the more you can film or shoot, the less fear you have of filling up your card too quickly. How can you find this out? When you next turn on your camera with your SD card inserted, you should see how much time you have left to film or how many pictures you can take before the card is full. Film or shots remaining will largely depend on the file format and other settings you're using, so keep an eye on this number as you shoot. That's one down. Not scary, right? Next, we'll talk about the evolution of the SD card. This will help place the different versions of SD card in chronological order. So we start in 1999. This was where the initial release of the secure digital SD card was introduced, and this had an initial storage capacity of up to 2 gigabytes. Fast forward to 2006, the higher capacity was introduced. This was also labeled as SDHC, with storage capacities from 2 gigabytes up to 32 gigabytes. Fast forward to 2009, the introduction of the Secure Digital Extra or SDXC, with storage capacities ranging from 32 gigabytes up to 2 terabytes. I don't even think my PC had 2 terabytes at the time. Fast forward to 2010 and the ultra high speed bus interface or UHS was brought in to deal with the more demanding applications like 4K, 8K recording and high speed continuous shooting. You can spot the differences by the numerals or pin configuration on the reverse of the SD card. UHS-I has 1 row of pins and UHS-II has 2 rows of pins. Cards with the numeral 1 indicate transfer speeds of up to 104 megabytes per second, and cards with numeral 2 indicate even faster transfer speeds of up to 312 megabytes a second. As a side note, UHS-II cards are designed to work in devices with UHS-II card slots, but they're also backwards compatible. This means that if you put them in a UHS-I slot, they'll work at UHS-I speeds instead of their faster UHS-II speeds. Another version was introduced, and this is labeled SDUC, with storage ranges from between 2 terabytes up to 128 terabytes. Space is important as you want to ensure you have enough capacity to fulfill your needs without worrying about filling up your card. Price points we won't cover today, but it's worth noting you may find buying 228 gig SD cards is cheaper than buying one 256 gig SD card. Plus, 2 cards means you have a backup in case one goes missing or develops a fault. In my experience, you're more likely to misplace than a card developing a fault, which is why you invest in a case. So for ease, here's a table simplifying the evolution of the SD card, which I'll leave up for a few seconds. Feel free to take notes or a screenshot. On to another important point, read and write speed. What do you need to figure out and what works for you? To help here, we're going to break down what read speed is and what write speed is. So what is read speed? In short, it's the speed it takes the data off your memory card onto another device. For example, when you're copying your data from your memory card onto your computer or laptop. Write speed, in short, is when you're putting data onto your memory card and is usually in reference to your camera's internal buffer. Similar to RAM, it's an area that holds images temporarily before they're saved onto your memory card. This is more noticeable when shooting in high-speed continuous mode. Bear in mind, with read and write speeds, manufacturers write the maximum speed performance of the card, but note there will be a number of factors that will determine the card's actual speed. Think of it as your ISP advertising speeds of 100 megabytes, yet your actual download speed will vary based on the network congestion, distance from the server, and the type of online activity you're engaged in. Real-world usage can be influenced by factors such as file size, the device's hardware and software capabilities, and the efficiency of the file system being used. Now, if you're asking yourself which speed is more important, then you're in the right place. And of the two, the most important is write speed. This is what determines whether a given SD card can keep up with the requirements of the device it's being used in. As a good example, if you're recording a high-res 4K or 8K video, the camera is throwing a lot of data at the SD card to save. If the card can't keep up, it can lead to errors such as the camera freezing up, the recording stopping, drop frame rates, and so on. I've had this happen to me before, and I actually thought it was my camera, and then I found out it was my memory card that just was too slow. If you're finding value in this video, then please hit that like button, because that'll let me know that you're still here with me, and we can continue into the next one. Speed class is mostly important for video as you need data to be written to your card consistently at a very high speed. Speed class ratings on SD cards is different to the other measurements in that the class rating on the SD card represents the minimum guaranteed write speed for that card. Speed class listings on earlier SD cards is the number you'll find inside the letter C. You'll either see a 2, a 4, a 6 or a 10 inside the letter C, reflecting the card's sequential write speed of 2, 4, 6 or 10 megabytes per second. Then came the UHS-B class after 2010, being the number inside the letter U, and will either be a 1 or a 3, indicating transfer speeds of 10 or 30 megabytes per second. This was designed specifically to meet the increasing demands of high definition video recording and high resolution photography. More commonly found on SDXC, but also visible on SDHC cards. Then came the most recent version, being the video speed class. You'll recognize this as either a V30, V60 or V90, being the minimum sustained write speed of 30, 60, or 90 megabytes per second. Let's bring this to life. V90 is a new designation designed for work with speeds required for 4K and 8K video. Memory cards in a V90 class are rated to support a minimum sequential write speed of 90 megabytes per second. The primary market for these buttes being cameras that shoot 8K video. Examples: Sony Alpha A1, the Canon EOS R5, and the Fujifilm X-H2. V60 is applied to cards that support a minimum sequential write speed of 60 megabytes per second. They are also primarily aimed at cameras that record 4 and 8K. Some of the newer cameras that record ultra high bit rates like the Panasonic GH6 require V60 or above. If shooting at 5.7 ProRes 422 HQ at 29.97 frames per second using a codec of H2.65, you can expect a bitrate of 1900 megabytes per second. It's important to note that this can only be achieved by using a CF Express Type B card, which is a complete separate card to SD cards. V30 is applied to cards that has a minimum sequential write speed of 30 megabytes per second. These are designed to support at least full HD and some 4K video cameras. U3 is designed to support full HD and 4K video recording at a sustained video capture rate of 30 megabytes per second. This class overlaps with the newer V30 class. U1 is designed to support real-time broadcast and HD video, being the 720 and 1080p, with a minimum sequential write speed of 10 megabytes per second. This overlaps with the newer V10 class. Here are some others on screen. Class 10 is designed to support 1080p. Class 2, 4 and 6 aren't typically available now, but classes 4 and 6 are designed to support 720 and 1080p. So for practical purposes, the most common currently in increasing speed order for speed class ratings are Class 10, U1, U3, V30, V60 and V90, with V60 and V90 being the fastest in class. So now that we've covered storage capacity, evolution of the SD card and speed class ratings, why do manufacturers leave the different naming conventions on the card? Manufacturers aims to cater to the different consumer preferences and levels of understanding. Some may be more familiar with the C labeling, as that's what they are familiar with the device that they are using, while others might specifically be looking for cards with video related features denoted by the V label. The other important thing here is to understand that these different labels ultimately indicate the same minimum sustained write speed. So with all that said and a lot to digest, what are the things you really need to be thinking about when buying an SD card? One being capacity, as you don't want to worry about running out of space, and two, the speed class, mainly if you're shooting video. If you're shooting 4K, 24 frames per second or 30 frames per second, then a V30 is more than capable. If considering shooting at higher frames per second, for example 60 frames per second, then consider a V60 as it will cope with the higher bit rates. If at any point you're looking to shoot 8K, then just go with a V90. For photographers, speed class is generally not an issue when shooting single frame, but does come into play when using a high-speed continuous shooting mode. The faster cards will do a better job at keeping up with you, so something with a speed class rating of V30 will suffice. So we've just spoken about memory cards in depth, which I appreciate may have left your head spinning. So if you want something a bit easier to digest, then watch this video, and I'll see you in the next one.